checking battery levels.
You can definitely.
Oh, there we go.
Good afternoon and welcome to the September 10th update for the Caldor Fire. As always, I would like to point you towards the QR code on your screen. You can point your camera on your cell phone at that QR code and it will lead you to additional links that will be of interest to the community that have been established as part of this incident. Again, we do maintain 2 information phone lines, one for the public, one for the media. The public can call 530-303-2455, and that phone number will be answered between the hours of 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. The second number has been established for our media cooperators. They can dial 530-806-3212, and that number will be answered 24 hours a day. The Caldor Fire stands at 218,459 acres and is still the 15th largest fire in California history. We are currently 53% contained, and there are 4,028 personnel assigned. Approximately halfway through our presentation today, we will open to Q&A from the public. If you do have questions, please submit them in the Zoom chat function as well as the Facebook chat function, however you may be watching. But please, we do ask that you indicate whether the question is for the PIO East or the PIO West. And now, our first presenter will be Operations for the West Zone, Beal Monday.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Beal Monday with National Incident Management Organization Team 2 and representing CAL FIRE Team 2. So we'll give you a rundown on what's been going on today and where we're going into our operational period this afternoon and to tomorrow. So I'll start over here on the map over in the Kirkwood area. Big focus, as I mentioned yesterday, we've got a lot of crews, a lot of engines down here, really trying to get this piece of fire secured down here along the Highway 80 corridor and around Kirkwood Lake itself. So things are looking real well. I just got off the phone with the guys that are over there. We're anticipating to add some containment into tomorrow's shift over here around on the east side of Kirkwood and then down here on the Highway 88 corridor. Still a lot of work needs to be done when it comes to some of this fire suppression repair. Like I've been mentioning, the logs that we have adjacent to the roads, all the hazard trees that are continuing to fall down through there. So even though we're continuing to increase our containment on the fire, there's still the fire-weakened trees and all the other associated hazards that go along with that that are still giving us delays on being able to fully get this area opened up in here. So we're continuing to progress, but it's still taking us a few days to be able to lock this piece of country completely in. Moving around the bottom of the fire, all through Division Alpha Delta, Sly Park area. As I've been mentioning the last couple of days, fire activity is very minimal. Fortunately, we got some good rain in there last night. A lot of those smokes that you guys are seeing, they're starting to diminish. Those stump holes, those snags are starting to fall over in the interior as they've been burning for a few days. So we haven't been getting as many service calls down here, but just know we still have a lot of resources down here, and if you do see stuff that doesn't quite look right, please give us a shout, and we'll make sure that we get some folks in there to take care of that for you. Coming up the Highway 88 or Highway 50 corridor, I'm sorry. Again, the hazard trees are a common thing for us. We've got multiple crews out there, heavy equipment trying to take care of all those fire-weakened trees, all the way from Fresh Ponds all the way up to Echo Summit. I mean, there's hazard trees constantly in and around all the tracks, all those fire-weakened trees. We're trying to make sure all those hazards are mitigated so we can try to get folks back in there as soon as possible. And then coming up into Division India, again, we got some substantial rain up here. I think it was around 2/10 or so is what I got reported back to us. This is looking good. We were able to fly some crews up there early this morning, and they're continuing to work this fire's edge all the way back down towards Wright Lake. So things are progressing there with that moisture that we had. Really helped us out. Higher humidities, a little bit of rain. We did have some wind today that we had to ground our aircraft for a short amount of time, but they're back up there flying as we speak, trying to help the firefighters up here in Division India and then down here around Kirkwood, try to get that fire under control. So that's what I have for today. Tomorrow's much of the same, really focusing in on trying to get the fire secured down here around the Kirkwood area and then up here around Wrights Lake and up into the Desolation Wilderness. Have a great afternoon, and I'll turn it over to Greg with law enforcement.
Good evening, Lieutenant Greg Stark, Incident Team 2, Law Liaison. So we were able to lift the warning order for Jenkinson Lake, Sly Park area. There's still a road closure for the Mormon Immigrant Trail. The Forest Service still has a closure due to the fire for all forest land, so check with your local forest representatives for access. However, this is still completely closed. I'd like to thank the El Dorado County Sheriff's Office for coordinating all the mutual aid for the patrols in the warning and mandatory areas, making sure that everything's going smoothly in there. Now I'd like to turn it over to Unified Incident Commander Annalee Burlow.
Thanks, Greg. Good evening, everyone. Annalee Burlew. I'm one of the incident commanders for Incident Management Team 2, and I'm proudly serving as part of the Unified Incident Command for the Caldor incident. So Beal had some good points. We were very fortunate last night with the moisture that we received over our incident. And, but with that, we can't let that lull us into a sense of complacency. We got a lot of lightning with that as well. So in Northern California and Central California, we received over 3,000 lightning strikes in the last 24 hours. And we remain in this red flag warning until 2300 hours or 11 o'clock this evening. So we still are getting lots of winds, and we need to consider that. Also, the moisture we got, while it is super helpful for our resources out there on the fire line today, very quickly those fuels will dry out, and we're going to be right back where we were with our low fuel moistures and our critically dry fuels. And so it's very important that our resources on the ground are recognizing that, and our public recognizes that. This is not a season-ending event, unfortunately. This just gave us a little bit of opportunity today to get in and do some really good work to continue to round the corner and getting this thing continue to button up. We understand the impacts of the closures of Highway 50 and Highway 88, and please know in each of our briefings, constantly with our operational resources, we are talking about the importance of getting those highways open, getting these communities repopulated. We understand the impact to the supply chain, and we are doing everything we can to safely open those roads. Right now, because of the safety issues for our responders working in there, for our cooperators and our utility companies working in there, and for the safety issues with the public in driving those highways, that's why they are remaining closed. But we are doing everything in our power to work on getting those reopened. So please know that, and we appreciate your continuous patience. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. And with that, I'd like to go ahead and pass the presentation to our partners over on the East Zone from California Interagency Incident Management Team 4. Sean, take it away.
All right, great. Thanks very much, Isaac. And welcome everybody to the East Zone. Just a quick reminder before we get our first speaker is that we are taking your questions right now for both the East and the West zones. If you could just put East in your question or West in your question, depending on who you think that question is aimed at. So with that said, I want to bring up Operations Section Chief Kyle Jacobson.
Good evening. I'd just like to start by reiterating some of the points that the West Zone made. The weather did help our firefighters today in bringing up the relative humidities and putting a little moisture on that ground, but that moisture was widely varied in the amounts that we received on the fire. In addition to getting a little bit of moisture, we also got a bunch of lightning. Just here in the Lake Tahoe Basin, we had 4 new starts from lightning. All of those are contained right now, but we're expecting more starts in the upcoming days. So it has been beneficial, but it has also drained a few resources from our firefighting efforts here on the Caldor Fire. We'll start up in kind of the Christmas Valley area. Resources are continuing to try and make this area safe. We have several falling modules in the area, removing hazard trees, doing everything we can to make sure we can get the community back as soon as possible. Fire continues to remain in its current footprint through Upper and Lower Echo Lakes. We are putting a lot of emphasis on making sure we get this mopped up, have approximately 50 feet mopped up now. We're trying to increase the depth on that. As we move west of Echo Lakes, we have multiple crews engaged out in the wilderness area, really trying to secure everything we can around here. What we're really trying to do is prevent any threat from the North Upper Truckee area. With these critically dry fuels we have, we can see spot fires quickly get established and move. So we really want to make sure that we prevent any northern progression and reduce any threat to the North Upper Truckee area. We also have inserted resources further west in the Ralston Peak area, a wildfire module. They specialize in work out in the wilderness, spike camps, and being away from any kind of support services. So we've got them out here trying to do what they can to cut off any heat from any further northerly progression. As we move through Myers Power Line, all the way up through High Meadows, everything continues to hold in its current footprint. These lines have been really wind tested today. We've seen 50-mile-an-hour winds in here. Right now, our lines are all holding, so we're feeling a lot better about this area. As we move through Trimmer Peak, all the way down to Saxon Creek, everything continues to hold. We do have a little pocket of heat here that we've had a hotshot crew in here working all day today. So we're really getting this mopped up and trying to secure this all the way down into Luther Spires. As we move towards Scout Peak, line production does continue to the southwest. They've been able to bring direct line all the way down into the Sales Canyon area, and we're going to continue working that. We also got resources into the Spot Fire area today. That area is approximately 70 acres in size. There is rock kind of at the head of it, but we're going to go ahead and do everything we can to secure that area. As we move over into Drop Point 68, which is right in the Strawberry Creek area, we have crews working both to the west and east in this area. We've been able to get hose lays in behind the line construction, so they're in there mopping up and securing the line where they can. We also found a spot to insert some dozers, so we're going to be working some dozers back towards the crews, trying to increase the speed on that line production and really secure everything that we can in here as fast as possible. We have seen some activity in the Strawberry Creek area. There is a heavy pocket of timber. That's why we're really putting some emphasis on this area. As we move down into Caples Lake, Everything continues to hold on the south side of this big, large finger here. We're really mopping up heavy on this east side with that predominant southwest flow to make sure we have everything secured. We've also been continuing to push direct line to the west, doing everything we can to secure around the corner and work towards the resources that are working in the west zone. Just wanted to remind everybody we're doing everything possible to get you back as soon as we possibly can. We're evaluating this on a daily basis, trying to reduce the threat to any of the communities, really focusing our efforts in those areas to get you back as soon as possible. Thank you.
That's great information there, Kyle. Thank you very much. Next up, I'd like to invite and introduce to you from South Tahoe Refuse and Recycling Services, Sustainability Manager, Jeanette Tillman.
Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for having us. We really appreciate it. South Tahoe Refuse and Recycling is your local hauler here. So we do cover the El Dorado County portion, the city of South Lake Tahoe, as well as Douglas County. We have actually been fortunate enough to maintain at least a minimum of collection services throughout this incident, and that is with the support of all the local authorities here. So we really appreciate that. As of Monday this past week, we were able to manage our regular collection routes. So whether you are in an evacuated area or if you have been repopulated, we've been able to maintain our regular service there to collect your garbage. The hope is that you don't come home to a bunch of garbage there. For those people that have been evacuated and have lost power, we're getting a lot of calls about what do we do with all of our food waste or our spoiled food. So what we have, if you want to bring your food waste, just food only, no contamination, please, we have been set up at our transfer station at 2140 Ruth Avenue, where you can bring all the food waste you want at no charge. We also have some mini transfer stations set out amongst the community. One is in Round Hill at Elks Point, Station 23 for those Nevada residents. We also have a truck at Bijou Park that is available for you to bring any extra volumes of garbage that you might have, again, at no charge. And our transfer station is open 7 days a week right now from 8 to 5. So you can bring anything and everything down to the transfer station if you have extra garbage. We're really encouraging people not to put food waste in the garbage if at all possible, because you may have heard that we have a bear issue around here. So it is encouraging bears, if they smell it, or if you have garbage out that day and there's a lot of food in there, they're going to get into it. So if you cannot put your garbage out till the 7 a.m. Of your collection day, that really helps us. It helps to mitigate some of the animal messes and allows for us to get collected properly. So we are going to be open this weekend at Bijou Park and the Station 23 out at Douglas County, and also at Holiday Market on the west side. You're going to see, if you're in the Myers area, that facility is going to be set up for you so that you can bring your garbage there, solid waste, any kind of garbage that you need to dump, they'll be waiting for you there. We're really trying to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to get rid of the extra garbage, maintain a garbage service, and keep the community clean as much as possible. We are having a lot of bear incidents, whether they're in your house or they're in your garbage or getting into your garage. So I do want to take a minute, sorry, but I think I speak on behalf of the community that you guys have done such an incredible job. And there are no words, there's not enough. Love to send around to all of you for everything that you've done to protect our home and community. And we're just beyond grateful. So if you have any questions, please go to our website at www.southtahorefuse.com. We keep that updated. It has all of the addresses and the times available for excess garbage if you need to dump it. And also our Facebook. We keep everything updated there, as well as links to all the different agencies on what's going on with the fire. Again, thank you all so much. We just really appreciate it.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Jeanette. And thank you for those kind words. As ever, my name is Sean Collins, a Public Information Officer with California Interagency Incident Management Team 4. And so next up, a returning guest from Southwest Supervisor District Operations, Jimmy Smith.
I'm a returning guest, but I keep talking about the same thing over and over again. So as the fire was coming into South Lake Tahoe, we turned off the gas to the area that's known as Christmas Valley. And the way we did that is we turned some valves. It's easy for us to turn off a large geographical area. And that's what we did as the fire was approaching, because it was a very good precautionary move. As the fire moved around the town, we were able to maintain service everywhere else. So as folks are returning to the open areas, for those of you that turned off your gas as a precaution when you left, please give us a call. Our business office number is 877-860-6020. Again, that number is 877-860-6020. What we want to do is send a service technician out to you so we can get your gas turned on safely and verify that your appliances are working properly. At Southwest Gas, your safety is our primary concern. It's just like everybody else here on this incident. Safety is everything. So when you get home, if you smell gas or if you suspect a gas leak, please leave the area you're in, leave the building you're in, call 911 and call Southwest Gas at that same number, and we'll get the resources there to make sure everything's safe. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Jimmy. And as we start to get our last guest up, I just want to remind everybody that the Lake Tahoe Basin Management Unit has their own Facebook, and we are putting up specific information, particularly in the morning time, about operations that's happening on the East Zone. So if you're particularly interested in knowing that information, come to our Facebook page. We will be sharing all the other information that is around, but you'll be able to answer us, ask us specific questions that we'll be able to hopefully answer to you. Next up, our last guest will be Incident Commander Rocky Opliger.
Good evening. My name is Rocky Opliger. I'm the Incident Commander for California Interagency Incident Management Team 4. Again, I want to thank all our presenters for sharing all the information that they have on what the fire is currently doing and what the plans are as we take a look at the futuring of this fire and the great work that has been done by all of our cooperators. You know, every day we meet with various cooperators, both the law enforcement component, our fire components, but most importantly, a lot of the cooperators responsible for essential power, as we heard refuge, we've heard gas, we have our power utility companies, and really we're trying to put ourselves in the best position to get that opportunity when our fire folks say it's the right time, that we can lift those current evacuation orders, certainly going from an order to a warning that allows our local residents to come back in and eventually to lift all the orders completely. You know, one thing that I wanted to talk about is that there's many folks that are working this fire from both our cooperators and actual firefighters and law enforcement on the ground that live here. And we think about those impacts that many of you are evacuated. Well, guess what? Many of them are evacuated too. And it always impresses me that they are evacuated. They've been impacted by the same thing that each and every one of you face, yet they're here every day to continue the efforts because they also want to get home. So, you know, as a team coming in and seeing what we've faced throughout the Western United States this year, and just the amazing job that where we are today, that we are looking at that potential future that we're going to allow you to get back into your communities. So on behalf of California Interagency Incident Management Team 4, and Unified Command with CAL FIRE Team 2, as you heard on the West Zone, NEMO Team 2, it has been a collaborating effort working together. I mean, just like the Highway 50, the work that goes into it, the thousands of trees that have to be felled. And I talked last night about those secondary effects from the fire, not just the threat of the fire itself, but those other issues that you face around communities. And those are those trees, the fallen trees, the stump poles that have excessive heat in it. And every day our firefighters are on the ground working diligently to get those reduced to the point that we can get you back. And our highest priority is each and every one of you, your safety. And again, we know our law enforcement's the diligent days they are in holding those roadblocks and securing those and continue to check the areas to maintain security around the evacuated areas. It's just a lot of work that goes into where we are today. And we're hoping in the future after this wind event, that's going to give us that opportunity to reduce the evacuation orders and get you into your homes. So again, on behalf of California Interagency Incident Management Team 4, thank you.
Thank you very much, Chief. Well, that concludes the presentations once again for this evening. I would like to remind everybody that we do have representatives from our local law enforcement and fire departments here. So if you have specific questions, they may well be able to answer those questions for you. And with that, we'll send it back over to Isaac.
Thank you, Sean. First up to answer some questions, again, that can be submitted via Zoom and Facebook chat, will be Bill Monday to discuss operations on the west side. Thank you.
Okay, got some great questions from you all this afternoon. So I'll start with the first one. When you perform structure protection, do you turn off propane tanks? And that's kind of a case-by-case answer, I guess. So if our fire crews get on scene and they see a large propane tank or a propane grill or something like that that's close to a house that could potentially pose a threat and there's time, then yes, we will try to shut those propane tanks off and or move them or your grill away from your house. So as folks start to repopulate and you might see, oh, your barbecue grill is not sitting where it was and the propane tank is set off to the side, that was probably our folks just making sure that that danger stayed clear away from your house. The larger propane tanks, much of the same. If there's time, we'll actually go in and physically cut a fire line around those propane tanks and shut the tanks off. So it's definitely worth listening and checking your propane tanks when you do repopulate. The next question, any new fires from last night? Yes. With the lightning storm that we had last night, we had 8 new fires, all lightning caused. And I think the largest one that I got the last report on was about 7 acres, and we had air support from this fire, all helping support those, and things that we haven't had any get out of the initial attack phase right now. So things are looking good there. The next one is, what is a snag? Great question. So we use some terminology here that probably some folks aren't too aware of. So a snag is basically a dead tree. So as you've been in the forest, you've seen trees that have died over time that are just old and they've died, but now we have the fire that has come through and has killed a lot more trees. So the ones that really cause a bigger threat are those trees that have died, that have been standing for a long period of time, but they're real punky and they're real susceptible to catch fire. And so those trees continue to burn and then they can fall over real easy. Now as the fires burn through here, that has created a whole nother hazard with creating more snags. So they will not continue to live, then the root system starts to fail on them and then they can potentially fall over. The next question is what is mopping up? Another slang term that we've used. So mopping up is basically extinguishing the fire, putting water right on the fire, taking a shovel, mixing it up, much like you would do if you go camping in a campfire ring. You pour the water and the hot stuff on the coals, stir it up real good till there's no heat left. So that's what we call mopping up. And then the next question is, any concerns about red flag winds and lightning expected tonight for heavenly, and any chance of evacuations? We do have the red flag warning that's extended through to tonight, but we are not anticipating any more evacuations through tonight or into tomorrow. Everything is sitting real good. Our fire lines are holding real well. We've got lots of resources in place, continually monitoring the situation. And that's the last question. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Okay, a couple questions I received, some great questions. So the first one is, any progress identifying the cause of the fire? So right now our fire continues to be undetermined. We do have the El Dorado National Forest's fire investigation team is working on that fire and diligently trying to find a cause for this incident. How is the injured firefighter? So last night, Chief Carter, one of our other incident commanders, talked about the firefighter that was burned earlier in the incident, and we do know that he is continuing to recover. It's going to be a long road to recovery. Burn injuries can be very challenging and take a long time for our firefighters to recover from, but we are happy to know that he is with friends and family, and we continue to keep him in our thoughts, and we really appreciate all of you continuing to keep him in your thoughts as well. I also received a follow-up question on the Highway 50 closures. So as I spoke to earlier, Highway 50 is a huge priority for us to open. It remains closed because of safety issues to our responders, to our folks working on the ground, to our utility cooperators that are diligently in there trying to restore our power lines, our phone lines, our Caltrans partners that are trying to get those guardrails back up for us. And just like Beal just talked about, remember he talked about those snags, all those hazard trees that could fall. And that's a huge threat to all of us driving on that highway. And so that's why it remains closed, is for the safety of all of us. And so as we are able, we will begin to open sections of that highway once sections are mitigated from those hazards, and we continue to cooperate continuously throughout the day and then on a meeting on a daily basis with all of our cooperators on that. Even residents residential passes right now. We can't offer those because of the safety to those residents, and we just are not comfortable yet with residents going in there because of those safety concerns.
Thank you, Chief. That'll wrap up the question and answer period from the West Zone. I'd like to go ahead and pass it back to our partners in the East.
Thank you, Isaac. Just got to wait a second there for the ASL interpreter to catch up with us fast speakers over here. So first off, I'd like to give you a little bit more information. Southwest Gas telephone number. So if you guys are ready, it's 877-860-6020. That's 877-860-6020. First speaker I'd like to introduce to you from the Lake Tahoe Basin Management Unit, Supervisor Gwen Sanchez.
Yeah, good afternoon. The question that came in is, what is a short and long-term plan to clean up fire impacted areas so that debris doesn't inundate Lake Tahoe? This is a great question. So as I said a couple days ago, I like to think about fire in terms of a 4-step process. The first step is suppressing the fire. The second step is emergency repair work. The third step is stabilization, emergency stabilization. And then the fourth step goes into that long-term recovery phase. So I currently have a team of different specialist areas, including hydrologists, as well as other specialty areas that have been organized and are on the ground deployed right now to look at the impacts of the Caldor Fire. And they're going to come back to me with a recommendation of all of the different activities that are going to need to be accomplished over the next months and potentially years in an effort to not only repair the suppression damage, but also help with that stabilization of those soils and that debris, as well as the recovery phase of the Caldor incident. I will have that plan from those specialists probably within the next couple weeks, and we are currently already starting on that work on the ground. So this will be a long, ongoing effort. We are planning on bringing in a lot of our partners to be side by side with us within that effort, and looking forward to working with all of you in the public to make sure that we are doing what we need to do to keep our lake blue. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gwen. And next up to answer some operational questions, once again, Operations Section Chief Kyle Jacobson.
All right, we have a few questions here. The first question was, how close are we to securing the lines in Echo Lake so that the residents of North Upper Truckee can return? I would hate to give you a timeline on that. I don't want to put an unrealistic timeline on what's happening. As I mentioned before, we are evaluating that every day. We have increased the number of resources in there. That is one of our priority areas, and we're doing everything we can to secure that area and make sure that those residents can get back in. I just don't want to put a number out there and not be able to meet that number. So I can tell you we are doing everything possible. We are increasing the number of resources we have in that area to secure that line as quickly as possible. And then how soon before we will see black line in the Trimmer Peak area? As I mentioned, we did get a good test of winds today. Our lines are still holding. If we get through the rest of the day, I would anticipate that we see an increase in containment in this fire at some point tomorrow. Please tell us briefly about the location and status of the lightning fires in the basin, which is related to the next question on the status of the spot fires on the West Shore. I just want to be clear, we don't have spot fires on the West Shore. Those are new starts. Those are lightning starts that we had on the West Shore. They're in the Ward Creek, Blackwood, and McKinney areas, so kind of around Homewood. We also had a start in the Glenbrook area. All of those fires are currently contained. That does not mean those fires are out. We're going to be out there working on those fires for the next couple days, but we do have all of those fires lined, utilizing ground resources as well as aviation assets. That's all we had. Thank you.
That's awesome. Thank you. And once again, we're going to bring up from yesterday for the El Dorado Sheriff's Office, Simon Brown.
Thank you. Just to reiterate, we just heard from Ops is we don't have an exact timeline for repopulating Tahoe Mountain, North Upper Truckee, Christmas Valley, and Echo Lake. So we're just waiting for the weather to come around to where we get it stabilized, to where fire's 100% certain that it's safe in those areas. I can't tell you exactly what day it's going to be, but I can tell you that we talk about it with fire, and we're never going to disagree on it. We're going to both agree that it's safe, and we'll do it at that time. So I'm hoping to give you good news in a few days, but we're not going to hold to any date at all. So please stay tuned. I posted some videos of some stumps and logs and trees that are still on fire throughout. So they're still smoldering. There's still stuff going on out there that's taking a lot of work to get that secured. So those guys are really working hard out there, and we all appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Sergeant Brown. And with that, it's back to you, Isaac.
Sean, thank you. This is going to conclude our English version of the briefing this afternoon. But before we turn it over to our Spanish language translator, I would like to remind you that for tips on what you can do to prepare yourselves, your families, and of course your homes for wildfire, please visit readyforwildfire.org. And now I'd like to bring up to the microphone Marco Rodriguez.
Buenas tardes, vocero Marco Rodríguez con el incidente de Caldor, con un breve informativo acerca de lo que está pasando hoy en nuestro incendio, este septiembre 10. En esta zona del oeste del incendio, con la lluvia que llegó ayer, hemos podido establecer esta zona un poquito menos caliente. Se han enfriado esas brasas calientes que tuvimos la semana pasada, así que nos ha ayudado un poco, pero eso no significa que con esa cantidad de lluvia hayamos terminado con todo el incendio. El trabajo se continúa en esta área del norte oeste del incendio, que es la parte de Wrights Lake y todavía lo que es la carretera 88 en la población de Kirkwood. Hemos tenido un poquito de dificultad con los vientos de ayer en la noche. Hemos tenido otros incendios en la parte este del incendio en este lado, pero hemos podido controlarlos. No significa que están apagados, pero sí hemos tenido que quitar un poquito de personal para que vayan a ayudarnos en otros lados. Tenemos una advertencia roja, lo que es este 12 horas. Así que tenemos que tener cuidado y estamos viendo que la situación está cambiando diariamente. En lo que es el este del incendio, se ha trabajado todavía y hemos tenido mejores resultados en esta área y esperemos que para mañana tengamos mejor contención y la línea de contención continúe incrementando. Así que les pedimos paciencia. Los peligros todavía no se acaban. Hay muchos árboles que se tienen que quitar antes de que podamos abrir esas dos carreteras. Sabemos que son muy importantes. Ahora, si nos movemos un poquito a este mapa, hemos repopulado varias áreas nuevas, lo que es esta área cerca de Lake Tahoe, y estamos tratando de continuar abriendo esas poblaciones, pero sí tenemos que esperar hasta que esas carreteras, esas áreas sean seguras para todos, no solamente para ustedes, pero también para los trabajadores que van a venir y las utilidades que tienen que volver a aprender. Así que les pedimos paciencia, no hemos terminado todavía, seguimos con este viento hoy en la noche y esperemos que mañana la situación vaya a mejorar. Si también otra cosa, les quiero invitar que nos visiten a la página web de Caldor Fire, donde pueden encontrar ustedes información de cómo prepararse cuando pasen estos incendios. Gracias, eso es todo.